YouTubers, Mike Martins here with the Mike Martins channel. So what does New Zealand and Canada have in common? Well, quite a bit. They both speak English. Their housing is severely unaffordable, and the cost of living is unreachable for a majority of the citizens living there. But there's one thing that Canada actually exposes that New Zealand doesn't, and we're going to do that on this video to kind of give people an up-to-speed, up-to-date discussion on what is happening in New Zealand. I've been covering the New Zealand housing crisis for a long time now, for many years, because I think it's the right thing to do. And people keep emailing me on this video here. Do not buy anything New Zealand, because people have been messaging me and thanking me because now they are out of work due to COVID. But how can they make the payments? Well, they're going to have to find a way. But majority of people that are emailing me are now out of work saying, thank you, Mike, for that video. Now it's put a better perspective in my mind. So what's happening down under? Well, here it is. Housing prices to double in 7 years, and there's nothing Jacinta Ardern can do about it. Property expert. Again, housing prices already, the median house price is about 700 large, and they're predicting it to be $1 million very soon for the average home. And we're not talking about Michael Jordan's house, Whitney Houston's house. We're not talking about those kind of homes. So a lot of Americans thinking like, oh, $1 million. I mean, what are these people doing there in New Zealand? Why does everybody want to live in a mansion? No. It's not one of those. And if you go to the channel here, you'll see what I'm talking about under housing ripoff. Like something like that in New Zealand is like $1.82 million, right? So I just kind of want to, and that's the one from New Zealand, 2.29 million, sorry. 2.29 million, and I had 100 bids on it. That's the New Zealand house right there that sold for 2.29 million. And you can't make this stuff up. So let's look at what it's saying here. But Ashley Church, former head of Prosperity Institute of New Zealand, says that isn't necessarily a bad thing. Again, homeowners become wealthy on paper. Renters have to pay more for rent, especially when property taxes or stamp duty gets adjusted to the cost to the cost of living or cost of borrowing or cost of maintaining your investment. His comments come after data for both Real Estate Institute New Zealand and Trade Me found the median home price Auckland is now more than $1 million nationwide, above $700,000. So right there, 1 million and nationwide above 700 large. Housing prices are going to continue to increase. Here's a prediction for you. In 7 to 10 years time, house prices around the country, the median house price will be at least twice that it is now. So what does that remind you of, guys? If you follow the channel religiously, you know what that reminds you of. It reminds you of this video I put here, where I'm getting a lot of shellac from. Housing to double in the United States, 40 to 100%. Now, why? Well, if housing doubles in New Zealand, let's argumentally say housing's going to double in New Zealand. So then this thing would be $4.4 million for that house, basically, technically, according to what they're projecting here. Let's just say. But people in the States are like, oh, well, but if the average house and median house price in Texas is still under $200,000 or under $160,000 in Alabama, going double doesn't look too bad on paper in comparison to these other countries. But I still see 40 to 100% increase in middle America while everyone exits the blue states. So he said the houses are going to continue into 7 to 10 years time. So it's already been going up since pretty much 2010 was the takeoff, and it's still going, and there hasn't been a correction, right? That's a reality. It doesn't matter what government does. It doesn't matter what the Reserve Bank does. We got 50 years of empirical data that tell us that what's going to happen. And that's the same thing what I did with the whole what's happening in America, right? REN's data shows that the median house price doubled during the previous Labour governments in 9 years of power, 1999, 2008 to 349, after a stagnant years. In a wake of global financial crisis, they started rising again, more than doubling in just 9 years, from 350 to 2011 to 725 today. Data shows that the past decades they have sometimes tripled, but typically during times of high inflation. They jumped nearly 20% past 12 months, defying predictions of COVID-related crash. Inflation was just 1.4%. And guys, we discussed this again. So that's it. I told you guys that pricing, I was going into like housing needs to crash in New Zealand. Housing needs to crash in Australia and the UK, in Canada. Yes, it does. There needs to be a correction. Yes, People's wages or no, wages are here. Housing's wait. You can't see my hand, but housing will be on the ceiling. And unfortunately, this is where we're headed right now. And this is going into that whole the major reset we're going into right now. The big reset that our great leader told us about the other day and kind of let the cat out of the bag. So here it is. The latest house prices have meant that only 33% of properties sold now are below the threshold, down from 40% just 4 months ago, said chief executive. If you're in Queenstown Lakes and then Wellington City, less than 10% of properties sell in the current market are below the local threshold, making it extremely difficult for first-time home buyers in these areas. So here's the deal with that. Canada is in the same thing because here in the province I'm in the province in Ontario, they can't find first-time home buyers anymore. Locals cannot afford to get into the market, period. And then we go into this one. New Zealand. Do first-time home buyers have a chance in New Zealand's $1 million suburbs? Suburbs, yes. So this is in New Zealand suburbs. Auckland, St. Mary Bay, according to New Zealand, has a median estimated value of $2.37 million. And in one of the city's most expensive. It's just an average house, guys. There's nothing special. You could buy something like this in South Carolina for less than $200,000 with more rooms and more land. I could guarantee it. So is that worth that much? I don't think so, man. Is that even a 2-car garage or is it 1-car garage? But that's what's happening. $2 million bucks. $2.37 million. Oh my goodness. Okay, so what is happening? New Zealand scraps target for 100,000 affordable housing, 100,000 homes homes to handle the crisis. So Phil Twyford and Jacinta Ardern's minister, Phil Twyford, came in and asked for basically her platform was to build 100,000 Kiwi-built homes. This was a Kiwi-built. It was something that they did in Australia, and I think it's in my videos here where they ended up building, I think, 16 of them, and then they scrapped the project. Well, that's not good, right? So what is going on? What is Canada telling us that New Zealand isn't telling us, or what they don't want to tell us in New Zealand? First things first. First question for anyone in the New Zealand housing market or understand the New Zealand housing market better than I do, which is people living there, of course, and that are watching and monitoring this and understand the macro and all the numbers adjacent to it. My first question is, has there been enough foreign investing in your country that even if the locals can't afford to basically pay for their housing anymore, that there's enough foreign investing, there's enough of a crater built in so that people could go ahead, so that nothing will happen to the housing market because the locals are so bought out anyway? That's why they dubbed New Zealand a nation of renters. That's just what people say. Now, let's move on to this. So what is Canada saying? Well, Canada came out straight up on better dwelling. Canada would be in a recession without money laundering. And basically, all this, there's the 200 and something billion dollars. This excludes reinvestment and typical in layering and integration process of money laundering. That means somebody opens a piano store in a mall. Nobody sees anyone go in and out, but they still stay in business for 20 years. Because they are paying for the infrastructure, paying the rent, paying their taxes, and they're layering the money through, and that's what they're doing. But unfortunately, this money is actually being brought in and flipped to real estate, and that is $200 billion, and that's only for 4 years. We weren't allowed. They stopped. The Liberal government stopped the investigation in the tracks because it was no good. It was going to lead to too many arrests, and they had to kind of back off on that. So that was a major issue here for a blow for Canada. But they're telling us more money is coming in into our housing markets than we could ever imagine. Now, how did that happen? Well, Canada brings in more Chinese. Now, this is what Canada's been bringing in every year under the radar, 500,000 per year. And he says 500,000 per year. Opening more visa offices could help Canada compete. That's the key right there. Compete for Chinese workers, students, and lucrative tourist business. Now, compete. That's the key. New Zealand, Australia, UK, Canada, Western United States, New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, and Michigan, and like Wisconsin, those kind of areas, they're all competing for rich investors. So people are leaving those states and moving into the middle part of America because they could afford to still live and still maintain a decent job. But people are saying, well, 500,000 per year, that doesn't make any sense, Mike. We look at Immigration Canada. This doesn't fall under migrant immigration. This is considered investors coming to Canada. So this doesn't go under that policy that you see when you go to StatsCan and find out. You won't see those numbers there. Douglas Todd, Aboriginals and whites leaving Metro Vancouver. I brought this up many times too. So 9,345 whites and 460 Indigenous people are leaving. This is in 2016. This is when I left Vancouver because the cost of living was just too damn high. I'm not paying $2 million for a teardown, right? And I bought a house that if I was to buy it in Vancouver would be like maybe $5-6 million now. Now, here's the problem with New Zealand. It's an island. It's 2 islands. And it's actually maybe 3 islands or maybe more. Who knows? I'm not a geographical expert here, but I do have some good news about this. Well, bad news. Sorry, I just got a link there. I got some bad news about this. They got nowhere to go. They're out of space. They're out of space. And this is the problem with New Zealand. And I don't know what's going to happen with the locals living there. So this is what's happening. Look at this. Look at this. Look at them bidding. This is me talking. Look at them. All these foreign people bidding for foreign investors and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So let's go to the magnifying glass and type in New Zealand here. So if you're bored, just type in New Zealand there. Type in your country. You probably find something I said about the country or something. There it is. Poverty crisis. Houses price flat. And this is a year ago. Prices were going flat. Until they had to keep lowering rates and first-time home buyers loans and all this Mickey Mouse. And that's my do not buy anything because I had to get this out there. And here are my yearbook videos that keep getting flagged for bullying. Look, 3 years ago, New Zealand most affordable cities. I don't know why it's saying most affordable, but it's actually most unaffordable. I don't know why I put that. Housing deception in New Zealand. Canada versus... New Zealand's most affordable. Yes, I made a video discussing what cities in New Zealand were still affordable to live in. That's correct. That's correct. Canada versus New Zealand housing destruction. So I've been talking about this. Wow, you know what? I haven't been... You see that? I haven't been in... I haven't been there like in 3 years. I don't know why it's even telling me that. Housing crisis New Zealand. Better watch this video from 3 years ago. New Zealand foreign buyers ban is working. So when they put the foreign buyers not to buy... Oh, there's Antifa guy right there. That guy's dangerous. That's Antifa. So anyways, New Zealand housing crisis tells all from 2 years ago. Is New Zealand xenophobic because they were calling it racist to not sell to foreign investors? But people got to call a spade a spade. There's a lot of countries you go to, they won't sell to you. They won't even touch you. They won't even allow you to rent in their country. So keep that in mind too, eh? So New Zealand to ban more foreign home ownership. And this is from 3 years ago. Look at that. From 3 years ago. Negative rates coming to New Zealand. I predicted a month ago that New Zealand would go into negative rates. New Zealand rent is what? Yeah, you got to see that one too if you get some time. So check out these videos, guys, when you get some time, because these countries have been bidding for more wealthy immigrants. These countries have been laundering money. And these countries people have been fleeing. And that's what Canada's been telling us. You don't see too much of that of New Zealand in the news. And if you do, it's usually a smaller media that's covering or something that is shared word of mouth. So I want to put this out there. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below. Look forward to reading your comments. Share this across the world because people need to understand that housing affordability is not going to only stay in New Zealand. It's not gonna only be in Canada and New Zealand and all these other countries. I think it's coming to America too. Comment below. Thanks for watching.